Hello, and welcome to the Steps to Happiness show on Soulivity TV. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. Are you ready to take the necessary steps towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Together with my guests, we explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. The happiness principle for today's show is living our fullest potential. Many of us are playing small in our lives. We're not living anywhere close to our potential or even living the life we came here to lead. This is why many of us feel unhappy and unfulfilled in our lives. Playing small is settling for a life that is just okay, but not great. Existing, but not feeling fulfilled or on purpose. It's dismissing what we want in life to maintain our current level of security, acceptance, and control. It means that there's a part of us that's focused on short-term temporary comfort, security, relief, and validation. So, what makes us play it small? It's our unconscious belief systems, a deep inner voice tied to our fears, insecurities, low self-worth, and scarcity. Beliefs that tell us that we're not worthy, that tell us that we're not to brag about what's going well in our lives because otherwise people won't like us or accept us. Or the belief that we can't measure up to other people because we don't have what it takes to be as good as them. Those beliefs came from observations and words that were said to us growing up and got programmed into our minds about who we are and what we're capable of. These were the words that I said to myself on repeat. You're not smart enough. You're not athletic enough. You're not skinny enough. You're not attractive enough. You don't have what it takes to achieve that. These words that I said every time I looked in the mirror, put food in my mouth, tried something on, or wanted to pursue something that was out of my league. Words like these are people's negative opinions and beliefs about how the world works that are programmed into our computer, our mind, which limits the way we see ourselves, who we can be, and what we can achieve. On today's show, we're going to be talking about how many of us are playing small and the steps we can take to grab hold of our lives by becoming aware of the ways we are blocking ourselves from living the amazing life we came here to learn from and experience. We're going to take a short break and I'll see you with my first guest. Welcome back to the Steps to Happiness show. I'd like to introduce my guest. He's a professional speaker, peak performance coach, and the creator of content that helps people achieve their goals and reach their full potential in life. Christopher Dedeyan, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, Teresa. Thank you very much for having me. Definitely looking forward to spending some time with you and just bringing valuable content to you and your audience.
Thank you so much. So, Christopher, I'd love it if we could start off talking about, in your line of work, what do you find is preventing people from achieving their goals and their fullest potential. So, are there internal and exterior barriers that people should be aware of? Because if we're not aware of what is preventing us from reaching our fullest potential, then we can't overcome it. So, what do you find are those biggest barriers?
So great question in that regards, and I want to kind of break it down in two parts, like you mentioned, the internal and external. Uh, there definitely are external barriers that slow people down in entrepreneurship or anything in the world. Reality is, it's so much more the internal barriers that we put ourselves in, and I think it's about like the 80% rule. So 80% is all internal barriers, and that's all the limiting beliefs that you may have. That's from you with your thoughts, with your ideologies, how you were raised, your community, your doubts, and all that stuff. That's what really people from succeeding at very high levels. And I'm blessed to be coaching C-suite executives, top tier entrepreneurs. And I've noticed that the number one thing, it really doesn't matter where you are within the pendulum of an entrepreneur, the number one thing that really comes out is those limiting beliefs. And if you do want to succeed at understanding that and being really a top tier individual, high performing individual, you have to figure out what are limiting beliefs. So then you could utilize it and understand when they come up how to act accordingly.
So, how can we recognize what they are? That when we're so stuck in the programming, conditioning, and paradigms, it just feels like this is life on earth. This is what it is. Like, even for me, part when I started my happiness journey 10 years ago, it was like, well, is this all there is to life? Because once you've been so entrenched in playing the game and you believe that this is what life is like on earth, that, you can only maybe go so far in your career, that as a woman, for example, I believe that there are certain, which they're not true, but we've been conditioned to believe that there are certain barriers to, maybe what you look like, and if you have disabilities, and where you grew up, and what kind of education you have. Like, there's a whole bunch of different beliefs that limit us. And so, what do you find are the ones most common? Because, as I said, when you're so entrenched in it, you can't even recognize them.
Okay, so great question. So first of all, are those limiting beliefs real? Yes, they are. Like we're talking about, like you said, the race, where you're born, gender, are those things that actually can hinder you in certain regards with the ideology of certain people? Yes, that's just reality. But that's sorry, that's 20%. 80% is how you perceive it and how you act upon it. If you're allowing that message to come in and accepting it, you're going to start acting a certain way, and you're going to get the results in that regards. Towards, if you look at it, hey, that's a certain difficulty that I have. Imagine me being dyslexic and always being that. I'm like, all right, cool, I have a certain difficulty. Now how do I go about being a successful dyslexic entrepreneur? How do I go about educating myself differently? So it's really the perception of what difficulties in front of you. So that's the first thing. Second thing you have to really look at, and just probably the most scariest place, is look at yourself in the mirror and really go in that deep dive of analyzing yourself, understanding your fears, your insecurities, your doubts, your limiting beliefs, your patterns, your emotions. And as you're able to analyze and understand who you are as an individual, then you're able to respond a lot better with what happens in the outside world. So then you're not reacting to a situation, but you're responding to it. And some tools to really help you do that is obviously personal development, meditating, coaching, and beyond. So those are certain frameworks to really go about understanding that.
So, can you give us some example of what some of those beliefs are so that we can become aware of them if we're not?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So this is actually one of the main pillars of my structure. So looking at the limiting beliefs, some limiting beliefs could be the judge, right? That inner voice that's always there judging you, that hyperachiever, that person that always is predicating their success on outside achievements, such as, oh, when I get that car, when I get married, I'll be successful. When I make $1 million, I'll be successful. Some other limiting beliefs are the inner doubt of, it's like self security, right? Like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not enough, whatever you want to fill out. So these are some of the main ones that really come about, as well as, being hyper vigilant, right? It's good to be vigilant, but some people are hyper vigilant. And then they go into the aspect of analysis paralysis. They take so much of what to do, but then don't take a decision and they don't move upon it. These are all limiting beliefs that exist. Now, the reality is, these limiting beliefs are going to be with the rest of your life. That's just the reality. Okay. Now, what you need to do is understand it. So when it comes about, you notice it. You're like, hey, my limiting belief of judge, I always judge myself. Hey, you're allowed to be in the car, but you're not allowed to be in the front seat. You're not allowed to touch the radio. You're not allowed to touch the steering wheel. You're in the back seat or in the trunk because that's just a part of you. It's okay to have those dichotomies of emotions, but not letting it control you is what you need to do.
Hmm. And I know that, and I'm becoming a little bit more perceptive, as you said, about it's waking up to them. And so we're going to talk about some strategies to maybe becoming more aware of them as well as overcoming them. So two parts to the
Mhm,
strategies then. For me, I'm becoming more aware of my limiting beliefs by really checking in with how I feel at any moment, that
mhm,
our emotional self, and I always speak about happiness being a compass. And so, but the other negative emotions like fear, worry, doubt, all of those things are also a compass that are there to help us lead us back to who we really are. That I believe we are powerful creators, capable of being, doing, and having the life that we truly desire. However, when I'm not feeling good in my skin, when I feel like I'm not enough, or I can't do that, or, oh, it's never going to work out. And all those, rehashing all those thoughts that maybe I've always thought about myself, is that my emotional compass, my emotional self is like, Teresa, that doesn't feel good. And so that's supposed to be a clue for me to say, well, now that I know that it doesn't feel good, how do I overcome it? And how do I move in the direction so that I can feel better about this situation? I can feel better about myself. I can feel better about the goals that I'm trying to go for. So what are some of the strategies that, so emotional self is one of the ways that we can clue in. What are some other ways that we can clue into when we are experiencing a limiting belief in that moment?
okay. I love that. So first and foremost is you have to have the awareness, like you said. So let's say that you're feeling something. You feel that, hey, I'm not feeling great right now. There's something I'm kind of off. I have doubts. I'm insecure about this moment. I'm afraid to call this client X, Y, and Z. So the
Mhm.
beautiful thing is you have to really study the human biology and understand the biochemistry of your mind because the mind has one job. And throughout the thousands of years of the evolution of our Homo sapien mind, it is only there to keep us alive. It's not there to make us happy, to make us fulfilled, to feel joy, to feel security. All it is through evolution of Homo sapien was to keep us alive. So our brain plays tricks with us. So once we're feeling these tricks of insecurities, of fears, of doubt, you have to rechange your perspective and see, hey, what am I really scared about here? Scared about, oh my God, picking up a phone call and calling a client and them saying no? Is that really a fear that's valid? No. Okay, beautiful. Now, how can I go about changing that? Now, one way to change that, a beautiful way, is get out of your mind and get into your body. All right. So if you're sitting down and you're in that state, get up, do a power pose. Right. And these are like proven, like Harvard has done research, Yale has done research. If you do power poses, your level of serotonin, it goes up significantly in your body. Levels of serotonin, so then you're going to feel so much happier. If you're in an environment of stress, maybe leave that environment, leave your room, leave the office, go outside, take a breath. All these things are going to help you out. Go out for a walk. So that's the way to kind of react it. Now, another thing is looking at what you focus on, right? Because this where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're only focusing on the negative of like, hey, taking this example of I'm going to call somebody, I'm prospecting, and oh my God, they're going to say no, I've called 100, I'm not good at this. You're going to get the same result. If you change that perspective of like, oh my God, haven't really offer my gift to somebody with my coaching services. It's a different perspective. How are you going to speak in that realm? How is the other person going to receive it? It's all linked up with energy. So those are the ways to kind of go about it. Understand what emotions you're going through, understand the biochemistry of your mind and body and utilize it for your advantage, and use your
Mhm.
body for your advantage when these issues come up within your life.
Absolutely. I totally agree with what you're saying about the brain, because many of us, and it's how the organ works, that we're stuck in the past, right? So we have those moments
Mhm.
where we're like, well, the last time they said no, well, that person said it wasn't going to work out, well, when I tried it the last time, I kind of faltered, I wasn't that good at it, well. And it's like your brain, as you said, is there to keep you safe, recycling the same 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, 95% of them always the same things about how it's never going to work out, how we're not going to be able to achieve it, how, we should just forget about it because we don't have the money, we don't have the education, nobody supports us. Like, it's on and on and on. A myriad of excuses that just replays itself. So if we're not aware of the fact of how the brain operates, it's difficult to break that cycle, to be in the present moment and recognize that in the present moment lies all the possibilities of where we want to go, and being able to create the future we really want to create. So, all right, so let's move into now some of the other
Sorry,
strategies
Teresa,
that we can.
do you mind if I add up, because you said something so delicious I wanted to add upon. You were talking about the past, the present, and the future, right? So your brain only wants you to be thinking about the past or the future. Why that is because those two states he could 100% control. Saying, okay, wait a minute, the past is something that's already happened. How's the brain controlling it? Because you usually think about something that happened in the past and you maybe add certain things, you embellish certain thoughts, you increase certain things. So your brain has control with that. The future, it has 100% control, right? It's thinking about something that might potentially happen, potential fears, potential success, and it's creating it. But the one place that your brain does not want you to stay at, because it has zero control, is that present moment. So once you're able to center yourself and be like, hey, what am I doing right now? Right now, I'm on a podcast with Teresa and I'm so linked in. My brain has no control. So as you're able to practice that, then you're able to diminish those fears because you're living the moment, not thinking about doubt, insecurity, and so on. So I just wanted to add that with what you had mentioned.
Yes, yes. And I'm thinking that if you had to make a very important call with a client, that if you were completely present and in the moment and giving all of yourself and coming from a place of good intentions, let's say, and being your true and authentic self, I just feel like it can't be anything other or do anything other than work out for you when you can be totally present there, instead of thinking about, well, this is not going in the right direction, I hear a hint of something in their voice, and other people also sounded like that, like, and then again we're out of that present moment. All right, thank you so much for adding a couple points on that. So what would you say then are some of the other strategies that we can implement to try to live our fullest potential and the life that we came here to live? I just to add on that, I feel like many of us are living unhappy and feeling unfulfilled because we're not creating the life that we came here. That I've,
Mhm.
as I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And as a spiritual being before coming into this incarnation, that I designed a path with a lifetime of learning and experiences that I wanted to go through. And I think when people are just loafing on the couch and watching Netflix on repeat, and every day is just the same thing, or we're living on autopilot, we're not living the life that we designed for ourselves, and we're feeling that depression, we're feeling that sadness, we're feeling that incomplete, all of those negative feelings that are all indicators just to say, you're not living the life you came here to live, you're not doing the things that you wanted to do to learn from an experience. And so that's why these strategies are so important, so that we can really live the life, like our fullest potential, so that we can live the life that we wanted to lead.
Okay. We're going to geek out for a second here because you mentioned some great points. Almost, I am in the same ideology in you in that regards. I truly do believe that we are all put on this universe and we're endowed with a gift. Okay. And that gift, you could call it your light, your purpose, your whatever. Okay. Now, if every single individual brings their gift in the forefront and lives in it at such a high level, lives their purpose, as a society, we're going to move forward with more joy, love, empathy, happiness, and success.
Mhm.
Now, the question is, why do a lot of people don't live in their light and their purpose? Because, like you said, there is a plethora of people, if not most of the people on this beautiful blue planet of ours, do not live in a happy state consistently. And the main reason what I have seen is because they do not understand in a very thorough way the difference between fear and danger. And let me unpack this, okay?
Mm,
So fear, the way I associate with it, I have such a beautiful relationship with fear. When fear comes about in my life, I look at it being like, God, I am growing out of my comfort zone. I'm afraid because this is something more.
mm,
I have to get better at it. It's stretching me. Now, danger is real. Danger, you could get
mhm,
hurt. This is something that is extremely something you have to be aware of. Now, where both of those get mixed up is where people stop, right? So if you're listening to this right now, you're like, oh, Chris told me to be afraid. I'm going to go on a building and jump off. I'm afraid. No, that's just being stupid. That's dangerous, right? You're jumping off of a building. The fear we're
mhm,
talking about is the fear of, oh my God, do I start this new business? Oh my God, do I go see that beautiful person in the bar and go say, hi, my name is? Do I go invest the money that I have in this new opportunity? Do I try this new position even though I'm not necessarily sure of it? I have these doubts. That's the fear. So once you're able to disassociate the actual word
mhm.
of fear and associate it with something positive of you growing and looking at it, is this dangerous or is this fear? Then you're able to succeed. Now, once you're able to notice this, what happens is you're able to stop repressing the reality that is calling within your life. Because everybody in this beautiful planet of ours, like I mentioned, is endowed with a gift. And you probably already know what that gift is. Maybe you're an amazing singer. Maybe you jump the best. Maybe you're an amazing cook. Maybe you're an amazing father, mother. Maybe you're an amazing entrepreneur. But a lot of times we repress that, calling it out of practicality because I have bills to pay, because I have kids, because I'm too old, too young, too this,
Mhm.
too that, whatever. So that's the difference between understanding the fear and the danger. So if you already know, because your gut knows what you should be doing, it's pulling you towards it, but you're repressing it due to what you're telling yourself and what society's telling yourself. So you have to stop repressing what your inner body already is calling you to do. That's the way I would answer that.
Yeah. And also anxiety is a big word we're hearing nowadays. Oh, I have anxiety. Oh, I have anxiety. Like
Mhm,
your body physiologically responds the same way, whether you're feeling anxious or whether you're feeling excited about something. And so I remember speaking
mhm,
to my sister when she took that first flight after, some of the lockdowns that we had been into. She said, I loved flying. Now I have all this anxiety and I don't know if I can get on the plane. I said, no, it's not your anxiety. It's just you feeling just like super excited in the sense that you need to tell yourself that there's nothing, you don't have anything to worry about, and that you always loved flying. And that is the truth, in that your body is just responding the same way between if you were anxious and worried or if you were actually super excited about being on the airplane. So you need to change your thoughts that are eliciting an
mhm,
emotional response that you're now interpreting in a wrong way, and that you are. And so she was like, wow, I didn't realize that we could control the way we think about things. And I said, yes, we're not victims to our thought. That's just our brain as an organ that's operating in a certain way, but who we really are is not the way our brain functions. And so what would you say about anxiety, which seems to be crippling a lot of people these days?
First of all, I would say 10 points for Gryffindor because what you just said was spot on. That is 100% correct. It's the perception of what you're looking at. And a lot of people ask me, as I'm a professional speaker and quite often in front of thousands of people, and they're like, Chris, do you get nervous? I'm like, no, I don't. I get excited. And then I ask them, what do you feel when you get nervous, right? Maybe your heartbeat starts going. Maybe you get sweaty palms. Maybe you're actually physically sweating. Now, what happens when you're excited? Same thing happens. Your heartbeat is going. Maybe you're sweating. Your palm is a bit moist. Maybe you're speaking faster. So it's exactly the same emotion that you're feeling. All you have to do is tell
Mhm.
yourself that, hey, I'm not stressed or I'm not nervous. I'm actually excited. And then once you realize that, you're delivering your speech or going on the plane with so much more happiness than fear. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the way that I kind of go about it. And the whole aspect of anxiety, which you highlighted, like I said, I've been blessed in my life to do within hundreds of coaching hours at this point to top tier entrepreneurs and C suites. And the first thing that I realized in the beginning of my coaching career is that everybody has literally a certain point of insecurities, doubts, fears, anxieties. They all call it different things, right? One person might be like, hey, I'm stressed. The other one is, hey, I'm overwhelmed. The other person, X, Y, and Z. But everybody feels it in different levels of the of like the stress level, right? Now, what you have to do is acknowledge it and be aware that it's there and understand once again, this ad it's receiving is probably given to you to develop the skills to be better at it. Because if you're going to succeed more and more, life is not going to get easier. You're just going to get stronger throughout the process.
Mhm.
So that's the way you have to
Mhm.
kind of acknowledge it. Once again, if you acknowledge the stress or the overwhelm in a different way of like, hey, this is a possibility or an opportunity for me to grow, then you're succeeding.
Mhm.
And in my beliefs, I truly believe the universe does not give me anything that I can't handle. Oh, it gives it to me
Yes.
at points that I don't have the skills yet to be able to eloquently handle it. But I do believe that it's giving it to me so I could acquire those skills and I have the tools to acquire those skills. So that's the perception that I go about it. And I teach my top tier
Mhm.
clients to go about it as well.
It's amazing how there's so, it's not only about the beliefs, that it's the emotions are tying so much. Like it's really all aspects of ourself, right? That's what I talk about on the show, is that we talk about connecting with and nurturing all aspects of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self, because
Hmm.
they are also intertwined with how we show up in the world every day. And so it's like those moments where, I'm an educator by profession. And, now I'm hearing a lot of parents saying, well, my child's feeling really anxious. They didn't show up at school today. I know, but the first days of schools are a little unnerving. So what does that mean? Every time we're going to feel a little bit worried because we're maybe going into a new situation, that we should just cower away from it and just say, well,
Hmm.
I can't do this. I can't, versus developing the skills that it takes for us to rise to the occasion in those situations, to believe in ourselves, that if we show up authentically in our and standing in our truth, and in the power of our spiritual self, which is always whole, healed, and complete, which we're powerful creators in that energy. And if we could learn to, like, say, how do I stand in these all of these different parts of myself, so that I can go into this situation confidently.
So 100%. In that regards, what I would add to what you just said, I believe that failing is a very important part. And mm, I guess protecting others or protecting yourself from failure is actually a hinder success. Once again, it comes to
Mm,
the analogy of understanding that, like you just said, like imagine a student going to school and be, hey, my kid's nervous, so he's not going to come to school. Then, okay, if he's nervous today, he's going to be nervous tomorrow. At a certain point, we got to kind of
mhm.
rip off the band aid, acquire the skills
Yes,
that we need to not be nervous in those situations. And that's only comes through practice and understand that
yes.
failure is really just a stepping stone to your success. And that's actually like a lot of people ask me like all the time, like, hey, Chris, like, how come you're successful in certain regards? Let me put air quotes here because success is very valid word. And a lot of the things that I say is because of my dyslexia, because from such a young age, I failed so much with the education system that I was given. It wasn't tailored for my type of learning. And I realized that really what is failing? Failing is just quitting. But if I don't quit and I get up and I do the
Mhm.
exam over and over again, maybe it's going to take me 5 times. But if I pass at the end, I have the same passing grade as somebody else that did it at the first try. And that succeed entrepreneur, because really what entrepreneurship is, and anybody that's an entrepreneur understands this, is just moving from one failure to another without losing steam,
Mhm.
without losing energy. And actually, I just kind of paraphrased Churchill's quote in that regard, right? Like success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts, and that's the
Mhm.
reality what it is.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Chris. This interview has been amazing. So many wonderful points that we were able to touch on and get across on today's show. If people would like to connect with you after, how can they do that?
Yes, thank you for that. So the best way to reach out to me or my team is just on my socials. So I'm at Christopher Dedeyan everywhere. My family name name is Dedeyan. You guys can go check us out on our website if you're interested for me to come or my team members to come and speak to your top tier team to go to that next level. You could reach us on our website at dedeyanenterprises.com. And if you're looking for one-to-one executive coaching to really go to that next level, to really hit that barrier that you've never touched before, we could definitely talk and see if there is a potential fit in that regard as well.
Thank you so much for being on the show today and helping us to become aware of the ways we might be limiting ourselves from living our fullest potential.
My pleasure.
I'd like to leave you with the thought for the day. After today's show, I encourage you to reflect on yourself and the life you are living. Are you living your full potential? Are you working towards your goals and aspirations? Or are there things that are holding you back? What are those things? Are there internal and external barriers that are blocking you from living the life you really desire? Are there conscious and unconscious thoughts and beliefs that you need to become aware of that are preventing your dreams from becoming a reality? To live the life we truly yearn for sometimes requires us to be willing to experience short-term discomfort, risk, and uncertainty to be who we really are and to go for what we truly want. It means living a no regrets life where we realize our true potential and purpose for being here. Playing big in our lives means we move past limiting and self-sabotaging thoughts and beliefs about ourselves by silencing the inner critic and remembering we are powerful creators capable of designing the life we were destined for. It's where we love ourselves enough to know we have what it takes within us to pursue what we're passionate about and have the confidence to implement the steps it takes to achieve it. Playing big means our actions reflect our knowing that we are enough, worthy, and deserve everything we want to be, do, or have in this lifetime. It's time to start showing up for ourselves because only then can we create the life we came here to live. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to being with you next week.